A Fitness Today presents. Welcome to the Listen by Heart podcast, where we feature stories from women of the South China Sea. I'm Jasmine Low, and today I will be joined by Che Puan Sarimah Ibrahim, a woman with many talents. I remember watching her present MTV music videos, emceeing events on television. She even had her own talk show. In her IMDb profile, she is an actor, TV host, model, voiceover, MC. She is a singer, presenter, mental health spokesperson, fitness model, and recently, loving wife and mother to a 3-year-old. In preparing for this interview, Sarimah answers some of my queries in between rehearsals to MC a black tie event that was attended by Malaysian royalty, key members of the industry, producers, directors, and cast. It's a huge evening, she tells me, and I can imagine the nerves building up in preparation for such an amazing night. And yet she took time to text me and fill me in on what she's up to. She's a Muslim, Irish Asian, who is strong-minded, resilient. She tells me that she has a Western Asian vibe and holds tightly to her Islamic faith. She has been to mosques, churches, the bottom of the ocean to the clouds. She has seen life through a grandmother who tapped rubber at 4 a.m. in Johor to make ends meet, an Irish orphan grandmother who was raised in a monastery and raised 8 children. Sarimah took a sabbatical from the entertainment industry, having found her soulmate, getting married, and starting a family. I met Sarimah thanks to a LinkedIn recommendation by a mutual friend, Dina Zaman, and we connected to discuss her work in mental health advocacy. Sarimah, welcome. And I hope you really enjoyed listening to that, because it's quite weird, isn't it, when someone introduces you like that? Because you're always introducing others.
Exactly. I kind of sort of zone out, sorry, because I think I don't know if it's an Irish or an Asian thing where I feel very, very uncomfortable with people talking about anything I've achieved or done. It's a weird feeling. I
But
think it might be more of an Irish, actually no, Asian as well. Like you jangan belaga, you don't get above yourself sort of thing, you know?
okay. Well, in my research, I was Googling and searching and trying to find, what other things has this woman not done, So
Mm.
maybe you can tell us a little bit more. I mean, welcome to the podcast, first of all. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be part of this. It's such a, how would you say, in a non-cliched way, it's such an important and timely discussion. Yeah,
Yes,
I would
indeed.
say in the world,
We
because the question of being a woman and what is a woman and what are women and who are women is very much being asked right now. Mm.
That's right. I mean, we're going to be segmenting this talk into 4 pillars. So the first pillar basically talks about your identity, who you are. And I can just
Yeah.
imagine growing up, it must have not been easy.
Um, I don't think anybody's life is ever easy because there's never been no one's born with a booklet or like a guideline to how to live this particular life. And I was just having a conversation with a lady yesterday, a friend of mine, and she said, I need to ask you a favor. And I said, oh, yes, what is it? In the middle of doing my show. And I always have this guilty thing, like I've got to be there for friends and family, even though I'm doing 75 million things at the same time. But it's just the way I feel, and I need to do it when my friends call. And she said, I need some advice. I'm feeling lost and I'm feeling a fear of failure. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I just said to her straight out, I said, what is living if it's not including failure and success? And I said, the only time you will not make mistakes is when you're dead, you know? And I said, it's what you do with those mistakes that really matters. And not what you do for others, but more what you do internally. In the sense that, you know, every single day we're probably making a mistake. And the only time you know you're making a mistake in life is when you look back in hindsight. Because any step you take is a step into the unknown. And I said to her this, and she just said, "Oh my God, I feel completely different." She said, "Maybe you're right. Maybe the mistakes I've been making and what I'm doing, it feels like my life is tough and it's so hard." And I said, "Well, that's you living then, isn't it?" I said, "Well, being alive is hard. Birth itself was hard. Pregnancy is hard. I don't think there's any part of being a human being that's not hard. Even death is hard for most people. So, is life hard and was my life hard? I think my life was just a life like everyone else's. And my circumstances here and there may have been a bit more challenging, but certainly not as challenging as others, or I would prefer to say different. And that's what's amazing. That's what makes every woman and every individual unique. Because people say, "Oh, everyone's the same at the end of the day." And I go, "No, no, 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 no. How could we possibly be the same? Whether we're the same religion or the same gender or the same family or even the same parents, nobody is the same because every circumstance impacts an individual differently." So I had an interesting life, I'd say, Jasmine.
And where were you growing up?
Well, I was born in Ireland to a 21-year-old mother who gave birth to me on her 21st birthday night. Mm.
Wow.
And I don't know if that was the best party to have when you're 21, but yeah, my mom and dad
Absolutely.
met when
Absolutely.
they were very young, and I was the first. I'm the first of four siblings. I have three younger brothers, separated by massive gaps of 6 years, 6 years, and 4 years. Pretty huge. Um, but yeah, I was born in Ireland, and my dad is from Johor, and
Mhm.
my mom is actually from Kilkenny in Ireland.
Kilkenny.
And
Okay. I only know
yes,
of
and
Kilkenny because of,
the beer, yeah, I know. And actually, the brewery for that is right behind my grandma's house in Kilkenny.
Okay.
Um, but my mom and dad came from very humble beginnings, and I don't like to talk in depth too much about their lives because that's their lives. I can
Sure.
only say, my life was a very, I would say confusing because it was, but whose life isn't? But yeah, it was confusing only in the sense that when you mix really, really half East and West, and you fuse them together to two parents who are very young, 21, 22 respectively, and the child is born in Ireland in a Roman Catholic country, and then I'm to be raised Muslim, but that was challenging for my parents for themselves as it is. But then for me, I guess, you could say it's confusing, but you could also say it was very colorful. You know what I mean? So you've
Yeah.
got your Irish family, and then you've got your father's family is from Batu Pahat, from Johor, from very much a rural kampong, which is great. This is the thing. When people like to use that term non-endearingly, and I don't understand why. Like, it's so kampong, like so village, so rural. And I say, no, what are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like every Hari Raya, every Eid, we travel back to kampong, and no aircon, no fans, and back to the kampong house, which is the wooden house, and only the base is cement, and very basics, and the chickens are going off in the morning. And I mean, I remember being very young and grandma just grabbing the chicken and like, and that was it. We're gonna eat this. Oh, cool, all right.
That's really like farm
So
to table, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like
it's
backyard,
very farm to
backyard.
table, and you're washing the dishes and you're eating and you're sitting on the floor. She rolls out the tikar, which is the traditional bamboo, what would you say, like a cloth, a floor cloth, and we sit and we eat with our hands and we wash our hands with the special, basuh tangan and makan. And then in Ireland, it was different. You're having your stew and you're having your dinner at lunchtime, and you're having your tea at dinner time, and everything's different, and people live their lives around TV shows like Coronation Street and Home and Away, and there's a huge, massive shift, yes. And
And that's
and then I
that's
went,
one thing I never got around, like having tea, but actually tea is dinner.
because and that's the right way to do it. We're supposed to makan, like eat during like our biggest meal on the day, so you could burn
Mm.
it off and then have like a light tea. So that was actually really good. And then I would come
Mm.
back to KL, and then it would be like, no, you're having fried rice for breakfast, you're having rice for lunch, and then you're having rice for dinner. And at night we're going to eat like pisang goreng chokodok, which is banana fritters, and you're going to enjoy. you know so and then I had like granny in Ireland who's got holy water at the door, and like going to church, and then like at 6 o'clock they'd stop and do their Angelus prayers. And then I had like Nene who's like, wake up at 5 a.m. and do your smayang. So like this, it's brilliant
It's lovely. It's
because
lovely.
the roots were there. When I say the roots, I mean the grounding of reality in both sides was very much
Can we give them a call out, like Nene's name? What's her name?
Oh, Nene, they've both passed. My Irish granny is actually Elizabeth Dooley. That's her maiden name. Then it was Hanlon. Um, Granny passed away a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, I couldn't be there. And that's one of the saddest moments in my life because the day that Granny in Ireland passed away, I'd started my first day of my contract on radio on a breakfast show. My
Right.
first day, Jasmine, to go and entertain the
Wow.
nation on a breakfast show.
May she
And I
rest
get a
in
call.
peace.
Yes, and that's one of the challenges of my life, I guess. Being an entertainer, you've got to, I bawled my eyes out, and then but I couldn't fly. I couldn't go back for Granny's funeral in Ireland because I'm here, and then the radio show had to go on, and it was first day, and there's no replacing. That's the thing. There's no such thing as taking an MC when you are a public figure because there's only one of you. So you can't just say, okay, I've got to go back for an emergency unless you're dying or in hospital. And the other granny who passed away more recently is Sharifah.
Sharifa.
Nene Sharifah was the one from Johor. Yeah.
Bless
So
them
Nene
both.
Sharifah was actually Chinese, and she was adopted when she was very young by a Muslim family, and so she's actually a Chinese Muslim, but lived her life entirely like she was a Malay person because the community was as such.
So basically, if we were to look at identity, you would basically
Yeah.
embrace the world. You've got the world in you.
Yeah, I probably say so because there's the Chinese, there's the Malay, which is from my Atuk side, and then there's on my Irish side, granddad also had Sicilian blood.
Right.
So there's like a
Italiano.
massive,
Okay.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
explains the fiery temperament, but yeah, got the Asian side to balance it. So I've
Do,
got the financial side from the Chinese side. I've got the relax, enjoy your life from the Malay side, and then I got the fiery temperament and the sort of like cry even if there's death from the Irish side. I mean laugh even if there's death. So with their wakes and whatnot. So there's a big massive mix there. Yeah.
Sorry, mom's coughing. So I'm recording, and my mom is actually behind me
I
trying
can't. I
to
couldn't. I
make
couldn't
me
hear her
eat stuff.
actually. I love
I
how she laughed. She laughed at that part though. That's so funny. I mean, she coughed at that part when I said laugh at death. She went, oh,
oh,
okay.
and then- yeah, well, that's
You've got to laugh in life, you
yeah,
see,
yeah, absolutely.
even when times are tough.
So I understand you moved around quite a bit when you were younger as well. You were traveling quite a bit as a
Yeah.
child, different
If it wasn't
schools.
confusing, yeah. If it
Tell
wasn't
us about that.
confusing enough, the amalgamation of you know races and cultures and religions, then there was the addition of dad being part of the airlines family. So dad working as an engineer in the airlines and several airlines across 10, 15 years meant that we moved countries too. So so it was we lived in the United Arab Emirates, then we lived in Malaysia, and then they lived in India, and I came back here to study. So it was all over the place. So I felt like a bit of a chameleon because that was probably the beginning of me transforming and adapting to situations before becoming an actor even, because you just have to move with the flow of where you are. So yeah, I moved schools maybe I would say 12 times at least. Yeah. So
Do you keep
you
in
don't
touch
really,
with any of your like former schoolmates until
yes.
today? Uh-huh.
And that's how I got some photos, and that's how, when I go on holiday and stuff, I do catch up with a few. There's only like a handful. Because I mean, how can you form connections and bonds that are strong enough when you're sort of jumping like a nomad?
That's
Do
right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, must have been
But
challenging.
so, and that's probably why it's funny because I'm talking to you now, and then something just clicked. I often wondered why I was a bit of an oversharer for a few years there before I stopped doing that. And I think it was because when you shift and you jump, you have to share as fast as you can to connect. So instead of like playing the slow waiting game of I get to know you, you get to know me, I was straight away like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. This is who I am, blah, 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 blah. Can we connect? Yes or no? Next. So that is something I think I've just realized is possibly the reason why, I tend probably to open up very quickly to people.
That's
Hmm,
there
note to
you go. There
self.
you go. Notes.
Like, why would I share? Like over the years, people say, I would look back and go, how did I tell this person too much? And I never quite understood. And I think now I know. Like actually verbally saying, it's because I had to connect so fast. Okay,
I
got
think
it.
it's also because you're very transparent with yourself. I think it's like this is who I am, you know. So
Yes.
don't make assumptions. This is who I am. Ask me.
Ah, I
Good.
like that.
So
But I
you
still think it's because I had to connect fast.
probably. Yeah, I can imagine because then you're like, okay, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, and you just have to prepare to travel
Yeah.
again, isn't it?
Yeah. People often say to me, are you going too fast? Am I going too fast with everything? And I'll be like, no, you don't understand. We could all die now. You know what I mean? And it's so morbid, but it's not about being morbid. It's about, I've always been like, grab the reins and just go,
Okay,
in life.
before we even talk about like, grabbing the reins and going with your career, your new phase 3, yeah? You've been busy building a family, right? So, and
Yeah.
I understand you've given birth to a baby girl who carries the bloodline of one of the nation's great founding fathers, His Royal
No
Highness
pressure.
Tuanku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia's first Agong King, whose
That's
visage
right.
is imprinted on Malaysian ringgit notes. Betul.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That
that's
that's
a
um
that's a big thing to carry on your shoulders.
now that you say it, yes. When you put it like that. Um yeah, because when I met my husband, uh Nazimuddin is his name, but for close friends and family, it's just shortened to Jamie. Don't ask me why, but everybody's got sort of like an easier name when it comes to really long royal names. But I didn't know. I didn't know who he was. Very strange. And I was sort of jaded when it came to relationships. I was like, maybe I'll just do this alone, and I'll save all my money and buy things for my family and myself and go on holidays. Wahaha, and spend my entire life backpacking, in between shoots. And then, the way it is with life, one night, I was dressed in a Gatsby outfit, Jasmine, like, I honestly was dressed up in a Gatsby outfit. I just emceed a huge event at one of the hotels, a corporate client, massive crowd. And my friend called up and said, "You've got to come out. You're working too hard." No, I'm in a Gatsby outfit. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to drive home and I'm going to eat food. And then she's like, no, just come out, lad. There's somebody, I'd like you to meet. And I was like, oh God, here we go again. I'm just not into this dating thing anymore. I've given up. And so I went. It's, me being me, grab the rein, you might die tomorrow or today. So I went and the person that I was intended to meet, and I just looked at him and thought, no, this is not my kind of human, but nice person, but not my kind of human. I think I'm just gonna go home. And then I went to the ladies, I came back, and everyone at the table had dispersed and were sort of talking to other friends. And then I was only left with Jamie. And we looked at each other, and I was like, hey, this is awkward. One person left. I said, so who are you friends with? And he goes, oh, I'm friends with such and such. And where is everyone? They've all sort of dispersed. And then he went from there. And I went, so where are you from? And because he looks kind of mixed too. And then we started talking. And we just talked for 4 hours.
Wow. Okay.
And then we realized on that night, it was 7th of December 2013, We realized that we'd crossed paths multiple times in 20 years. I'd emceed events he'd been at. I'd emceed events for his family. I'd been at events and celebrations that he was at, but we never met. It was so weird. And so we had so much talk. And his birthday is the day after mine, so it was kind of
Oh,
like,
is that right?
yeah. And the eldest of four siblings, whatnot, etc., etc. And I guess that's how it is with life, And so we were married, and then yeah, we had Sophia almost 4 years ago. It's going to be four soon. And yeah, I honestly, I never thought I would. I was never the maternal type. I think it, with the constant uprooting in my life, it never gave me a sense of I'll be set in one place long enough to be stable enough to be a mother. But after meeting my husband, I sort of realized, it's possible to still do what I do and yet build a family, and I deserve to do that for myself.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
I've seen
Yeah,
photos. I mean, yeah, she's gorgeous.
she's a force to be reckoned with, though, that
Mm.
little one. It's funny how the genetics sort of come through the DNA without even nurture sort of igniting them, because she has never seen me perform. It's funny,
Is that
on TV or
intentional?
anything.
Is that intentional?
Well, because she was born during the COVID time and I wasn't doing. And gosh, we speak about the COVID time like she was
Like
born during the
zaman
war,
dulu, zaman dulu.
but it is, in that sense. So she never really saw me perform, but yeah, she sings, she dances, and all these things, and it's just coming through. You can see it coming through. Yeah. So I'm very, very much happy, and it's been a joy, and it's been eye-opening and very educational. And being a mother, like I said, I was never one to be too maternal. I think being the oldest of three younger brothers, I sort of felt like, oh, I've done all the child rearing.
Yeah, I get that. I've got two younger ones.
And it's sort of, yeah, but yeah, no, having Sophia definitely changed my life. I went through a bout of postnatal depression that was so intense that I
Mm.
think it turned me inside out and allowed me to realize a lot of things and look at the way I live. Yeah.
That
And then
must have been difficult. I mean, not many people talk about postnatal, but that must have been a
yeah.
difficult time, and especially during COVID.
Well, I would use the word horrific for it.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your
Um,
go-to? How did you rise out of that?
oh my goodness. It was a gradual drop into the postnatal depression that I wasn't aware of, because when you're a performer, you're so used to enduring. So you don't realize, you don't pick up on your body's anxiety anymore because you kind of thrive off adrenaline. So when she was born, I could connect with her and everything, but I had an overbearing sense of dread and fear 24 hours a day that sort of engulfed me. Now, when I say dread, the only way I can explain it to other people who haven't been through it would be, when you're let's say you're on a roller coaster, and you're going up the tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know when you're going to reach the top, and you don't know when it's going to drop. It's like that every single second of the day. That was the feeling, and I could vocalize it. And I studied psychology, and I've always
Right.
been a spokesperson, a very, very, I'm an advocate for taking care of your physicality as well as your mental health. So I was already doing self growth with the therapist, and I still went through it. But the thing is, the gift of having the education was I could sense, oh my God, I've I've gone into a dark, weird place. And I
Mm.
kept saying it to my husband, I'm in a weird place, I am, which means love. I'm in a weird place and I don't know what it is. And he was observing me, and he goes, you're going through it, but you'll come out. It's like this, he said. You're like this right now, and slowly it will go like this, and then you balance out. And I went, oh my God, but I'm like this every day, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I feel fear constantly. So I said, no, I've got to get help. So it was every single day sitting with the therapist. And when I say crying uncontrollably, I was crying because I was afraid of feeling fear, and that caused more fear, so that the fear cycle stuck in my brain. So I went into a loop of severe dread and anxiety. I didn't quite uh, flip over into psychosis, thank God. But I'd say if I hadn't gotten help, it would have gone into the postnatal psychosis part, which is why I call it horrifying, because it was borderline. And the thing is, I was aware of it, which is even worse, I think, because if you're a person who doesn't know what you're going through, you're kind of a bit sort of like, ah, until you come out of it. Then you're like, ooh, what was that? But me being the overthinker and having studied psychology and being aware of postnatal depression, it's like I'd fallen into a quicksand and I couldn't get out. I was like, oh no, I'm inside it and I can't get out. So the therapist every single day, followed by 3 months of intense therapy. And then I went on medication for a short period of time just to lift me out of the quicksand so that I could pull on the vine to pull myself out. If that makes any sense.
Wow.
So once I got my body out of the quicksand, I was sort of in the clear, and then I could do the work to rebuild, pull myself out, wake up from the nightmare that was that period of time of 6 months.
And you're okay about talking about it now?
Yeah, because everyone goes through it. It's just that when they're inside, I mean, everyone who does go through it, or who's aware that they've gone through it or is going through it, knows what I mean here. And I think that it's not something to be like ashamed of, because I feel like it's almost like, you know how people talk about puberty. Oh my God, he's going through puberty, or she's going through puberty. She'll get over it, or they'll come out of it. It's a period of time. It's the hormones. So I think it should be the same with postnatal issues. It should be accepted by society in the sense that, oh, okay, so you're going through this postnatal in a really difficult way. Your hormones have gone whack and it's messed up your brain for a while. So let's kick in the plan. Do you know what I mean? Like it should be that normal, because there's half of the population are women, and at least half of those half will give birth, and at least half of those half will go through some sort of shift and change mentally. And so it needs to be that normalized, where we just kick in as a society without the superstitiousness, without the judgment, and we go, oh, okay, so it's like puberty. Okay,
Yep.
so some people go through it harder than others. Now here's the steps: A, B, C, D. It should be even, when you check in the hospital, I think there should be like the doctors or whoever should go, okay, so the day after you give birth, you might experience A, B, C, D, E, F, G for the next week or month. And so this is what we have to support that process. And I think that needs to be something as normal as sanitary pads or menstrual tablets with menstrual pain.
I think that's a really good idea. That toolkit, for mothers
Yeah.
to be, basically.
Yeah.
It's
So
like a
like if you
toolkit.
don't go through it, fine. But if
Yep.
it happens to you, here's the book, or here's
Yep.
the guideline, or here's the
Yep.
numbers to call, or here's the steps. And if you feel like you're dying and you're stinking and you cannot breathe, well, this is normal. Hang on. And I think that would really help so many women in the world to just go, okay. So it's like a puberty thing, for example. Do you know what I mean?
I
Like,
think it even
like,
helps with you talking about it, even helps because
yeah,
you're talking about it.
that's why I talk about it.
Mm.
Because like if we don't talk about it, then it will be just like, back in the olden days when people were like, oh my God, puberty, or there's something wrong with that person, or, certain milestones were not hit by a child or whatever. And, they throw them in mental institutions, etc. But now we know better. We know there's different ways of learning. There is autism, there's different spectrums, etc. And there's ways of coping with ADHD or whatnot. And people are not labeled as mental and thrown into a mental institution, locked up in a straitjacket. So the same needs to apply with the education for women, and when we go through postnatal, and not just the women, like the husbands or the partners and the family and the people that support them, so that they can go, oh, okay, so we were warned about this. So she's the postnatal depression is kicked in. So this is what we need to do. Because otherwise, you've got the fear that just gets so big, and then a lot of people, you'll see a lot of unfortunate like self-harm or child harm or domestic abuse or divorces that come quite shortly after a woman has a child or multiple children. And I do wonder if there is any further studies that have been done to correlate the postnatal depression with these incidents, because I think that there could be something quite substantial that will come from that kind of research if it's done. I
Mm.
mean, it would make sense,
Thanks for
you
diving
know?
into that and for being so
Mm.
candid and sharing that. From playing an undercover prostitute cop to playing a women's rights lawyer, activist, and your roles have been like, and then you've been on Disney Channel Kids,
Yeah,
been on the 20 live award shows, Icon
yeah,
ASEAN singing competition, and then you were the host for that TV series, The Biggest Loser, Asia Hallmark.
yeah.
I mean, how do you select your roles? And, you know, has it been like a series of serendipitous events?
Yes, it has been the latter, honestly. It's I mean, I started off like I just went for an audition when I was 19 and a half. I was working in the restaurant and studying. And they said, "Oh, there's a drama, a TV series, something ridiculous, like 60 episodes for a company back then called HVD. And they were producing, it was like a factory of TV shows, like, like 200 episodes, Um, and I was in one of them, and a colleague who was another actress said, "Oh, tomorrow they're having an audition for a film. Mm, I think you should go, La Sarima. I think you never know." I was like, "No, la, I'm never going to be in films. I'm just happy doing this part-time work." "Kaya cuba lah, just go and try." I said, "Okay." So next day I got in a taxi, went for this audition, and it was to co-star with Amy Mastura at the time in this film called Putri Impian 2, which was the follow-up to Putri Impian 1, which had been a hit, which is the story of it's like a Cinderella story in film. And I came in and I played the fiance of her love interest. So I was kind of the baddie, but I was nice and
Ooh.
kind of, yeah, I was the baddie, but it was kind of because it felt sorry for me because he'd fall in love with the main character and I was kind of pushed aside. So I then this is where it gets funny though. That was my first film. I wasn't even 20. And in the film, I fall in love, not fall in love, I look for a member of royalty to marry and I hunt him down.
Art mimics life,
It's
or the
so
other way around
weird.
again.
And so when I got married, when I met Jamie, people were like, "Oh my God, it's like the film." And I'm like, "Please, no, I didn't hunt anyone down. Thank you." But yeah, so that was my first role venture into film. And I played this really strong character who was like, but kind of goofy, and then was like, he's leaving me, so I better find someone else. So that was the start. And then the other roles came because the directors saw me and then they were like calling me up. Now you got to do this. Now you got to play a policewoman. Then you're going to be undercover running around in your bra. And then you're going to play, you're going to wear a wig and you're going to be in Genting Highlands out in the cold weather. And you're going to play this woman who fakes her husband's death and you're claiming insurance and it's in a spy comedy. Oh my God, it was so funny, these roles.
Have you
And then
had like
finally,
have you sorry,
and then finally this year I got the serious fighting for women's rights role, which probably come with the change and the shift in people's perception of me being a mental health advocate and whatnot, being a mom. So that doesn't mean I can't still play a variety of roles. I mean, I'd still do the same undercover role. I've got no problem because that's acting. That's the job.
what's your dream role? I mean, if somebody were to like, have a script ready, and what's your dream role? It could be anywhere in the world too.
Somewhere that shoots in a variety of places around the world. And I think I would like a role that shows a woman that's complex and maybe a parallel role to my life, but a bit more. Mm,
I'm thinking James Bond villain here.
oh my God. James Bond villain? Why does it have to be
Yeah,
a villain? Oh yeah, because or maybe a
villain.
Mission Impossible villain.
Mission
James Bond
Impossible.
villain always dies. I don't want to die on screen. Probably. So you don't see me as a Bond girl then. So
Hmm.
why?
too sexy lah.
Too
Can the
sexy
husband,
and too.
and you gotta kiss him, right? So how? How
Do I
does that?
have to?
I don't know. How
Why
does
do the
that
women
work?
always have to kiss the men? Why can't it just be like, he's in love or attracted to my brain? Why do they do that? Do you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah. So maybe it could be a James Bond film now that you said it. Something that's more complex. But a villain is never just a villain, and a goodie is never just a goodie. Because as human beings, we're always in a triangle, usually, the dysfunctional triangle of being a victim, a rescuer, or a perpetrator. We all are all three in one go, usually, unless we're sort of, very self-aware and stepped out of those roles. That's the role that
Actually,
all of us play.
actually, I must apologize, Sarima, because you know what I just realized I've done?
You
I've fallen.
stereotype me.
Yes, and not only that, worse still,
Oh.
I've 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 fallen straight into the play of a colonial girl villain James Bond hero.
Oh,
So you
oh
should
my
you should
God.
have a film where you are the Jane Bond.
Yeah,
Good.
why not?
Wow.
Because that's why when you asked me the question first, I said parallel to my life with a woman who's complex and has gone through a lot and survived it. And isn't that James Bond?
That's actually more than James. Because who's James Bond anyway? He's just a British spy.
Yeah, but he isn't. He's been through hell and he's had a lot of losses too. But why
Mm.
why not be a woman too, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we
but I
need to
mean, of
give
course
Ian
there are other roles.
Fleming's we need to give Ian Fleming's admiration and scripts maybe a rest for this, but I think you might need a
Yeah,
totally new role of that heroine from,
yeah.
or not
I
even
mean,
feminize it, hero.
my favorite role by a female
Mm,
actress
mm.
of all time is Kate Blanchett in Elizabeth.
Yes.
That is my ultimate favorite role. I don't think anybody can beat her. She was fantastic. I like Gillian Anderson's portrayal of Margaret Thatcher. I love all the roles that Helen Mirren take on and Judi Dench.
Mm,
Um, I particularly like also Downton Abbey. I do like um, the way the women are portrayed there. They're not seen as just being victims of the circumstance.
yep.
I'm not too sure about Bridgerton. I feel that it's still falling into a sort of a woke idealization of shift,
Yep.
which is not realistic. See, I've got no issue with being woke. The only issue I have is when the woke ideology is not reflected in reality. Does that make any sense to you?
Yep.
So
I
I'm
think
not
that was
anti-woke and I'm not woke.
I have a feeling Bridgerton was also quite, I mean, we all know what they're trying to do. And it was
Yeah.
also the
And
timing, how it came out at that time.
fair enough. But again, if it's not um, rooted in reality, I find it difficult to connect and believe. And not to say that I don't want it to be rooted in reality. The idealist way of looking at things, having the shift in perception for different people, different cultures, that's all wonderful. I mean, I more than anything would love to see that in the world. But I think we've got to be a bit more less pushy and let it sort of, organically happen rather than say, this is what needs to happen. Because the biggest hindrance to change is fear. And when, as human beings, we don't feel connected, there is that it's either you're afraid or you're intimidated or you feel insecure, right? So when you push things to people in any context, even if you just show up, if you're about to get on the bus and you say, "Give me my ticket," I mean, the bus driver's going to go, "Hang on, I was going to give it to you." So I think there's a way to do things that just need to look a little bit less forceful and desperate. That's all I'll say on that matter.
So I have a question for you. If have you ever considered acting outside of Asia?
Definitely. I mean, because I think that not being as like full of assumption, but I would assume slightly even that I could represent many types of female embodiments within me. You know, I don't come from one particular aspect of being Asian or Western. I come from an amalgamation of both and different cultures and different upbringing, neither just privileged or just not privileged. I can see many sides to both cultures. So when it comes to Asia, I think we are like that. We are open now. There's a fair chance for everyone, but I don't think I need to put on a fake accent to fill a certain roles, idea. I can just be me because the whole world is mixed now in that sense. We are a mixture of ideas. We share, we speak, we do talks like this online. There's intermarriage, inter everything. And my biggest goal is to present to, I guess if you're asking me straight out what my dream would be to present to the world through whatever means necessary, and Hollywood happens to be one of them, the idea of a woman who is both Asian and Western, who can be a Muslim and not be the idea that they hold of us. That's probably where I'm at. Yeah, and that is something that I would like to demonstrate and offer, because I want to break those stereotypes that they have of Asian women. We can only do martial arts, or we can only do conservative, or we can only do super fierce and
Yep.
super anti-feminist, or we're super tomboys. Why the extremes? Just want to bring it sort of in the middle where it kind of tilts to left and right here and there. So I think that's still lacking in the industry when it comes in particular to the casting that's happening for actors and actresses.
I think if I can say this, like what the world has seen so far of Asian actors is, I mean, okay, we have to cite Crazy Rich Asians because that really just took the world by storm. But I
It
must
did.
also say that most of the people cast in that film were of a particular heritage, and they were actually
Exactly.
Southeast Asian Chinese, most of them Southeast Asian
True.
Chinese or North Asian Taiwanese,
Yes.
so the there's so much more, so many more layers to who Southeast Asians are. And
Exactly.
it's not like a stereotype. It's not like Asians
Yes.
are just one type of people. Asians are so rich,
Yes.
just
One
like
color, one religion. Yeah.
it's like our cakes, our typical
Yeah. Or
Malaysian
a layered
cakes,
cake.
layered cakes.
Yeah.
There's
Different
so many
colors.
layers and colors.
Yeah.
So I
And if
think,
you look at our traditional cakes, often there's always like a base and a
yeah.
top and sometimes a middle. So we're very much, many, many layers to us.
Yes,
And
yes,
often there's a white layer at some point. So I like to say that I'm the green and white cake of
yes,
Malaysia, which is the kueh talam or the Sri Muka. And they have two layers to them in the sense that, they're both half half, and they represent two very different ways of looking at things. But of course, there's many different layers. I do love the layered cakes that have multiple rainbow colors, and that's my favorite as
Actually, on that topic of food, right? I must ask you, what are your favorite
well.
go-tos for makan?
Oh my God, I am very much a rice person.
Really?
Yeah, I like rice and coconut. You give me anything with rice and coconut, particularly coconut milk, santan. I can't. It's just coconut milk and me. We were just meant to be. You know, um, I will honestly consume anything that has coconut in it.
Yep.
Like, just give me some plain white rice and give me some chicken, coconut, kurma chicken or honey chicken. Wow, best. Or ayam masak merah.
You really
It's
sound like you
basically
love your
chicken cooked
food.
in red sauce. Yes, and I love it. But I'm not a I'm not a big spice eater, only because it gives me bad gastric, but I love, roti canai or, the flatbread, and I love, fried chicken. Ooh, I cannot. And satay, chicken satay. The sauce it must have the bigger chunks of peanut, not the sad little tiny pathetic sauce that sometimes you get that's it's got oil on the top and there's no peanuts there. What is this?
Suddenly we
So
see
yeah,
you're promoting coconut already.
I know. Maybe I should have a coconut drink. But yeah,
Hmm.
so
But
I just,
okay,
yeah.
I I asked if you could find like a piece of work that would inspire you or even a
Ah,
script. Actually, what if you
hmm.
were to read a script? Are you allowed to? Or is there anything that you would read?
Uh,
Something that's,
I have
or something
I
available
have a
from
monologue.
a monologue? Or something even
Yeah.
available from Hollywood that's, saja. Like you can just do a script reading.
Mm.
But
I
you don't
don't
have to
have
do it
anything
now.
specific. Yeah.
You
But
don't
I
have to,
have,
yeah, you don't have to do it now. You can do it anytime, whenever you're comfortable. Tapi if you want to do it now, also can.
ah. Well, first I wanted to read a quote by a very well-known author and physician that really says a lot for people in general, but specifically for women.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that we often play the role of being the caretaker in any family. That's just how we are. Um, let me see where it was. I did share it with you earlier, and now it's just let me get on my phone. Got it. And this is by the author and physician Gabor Mate, who a lot of people see as very out there, but he's very well known for his book Hungry Ghosts, in the realm of hungry ghosts and the body never lies. And I'll just give you the quote first before I think of what to perform.
Okay.
And he says, the very same brain centers that interpret and feel physical pain also become activated during experiences of emotional rejection. In brain scans, they light up in response to social ostracism, just as they would when triggered by physically harmful stimuli. When people speak of feeling hurt or of having emotional pain, they're not being abstract or poetic, but scientifically quite precise. And I think oftentimes women are sort of seen as you're being overreactive or you're being too emotional. But what does that mean? I always see it as just meaning you're being too human, and it scares me. And a lot of diseases and issues, and there's a massive correlation for women when it comes to diseases and health issues such as depression and ovarian cancer, a correlation between these two and emotional suppression. And it's very much prevalent in women who are caretakers of their families um, because they are taught to absorb and suppress and repress. And it is correlated with a lot of health problems. And, I find that to be so important for us women, especially us Southeast Asian women, because we are raised to almost accept suppression and repression as a strength. And to communicate the need for help is seen almost as an anti-cultural, anti-family way of being. And that's not true. And it is not helpful and it's harmful.
That is
And this is so important.
that is a very enlightening statement because I mean we're 2/3 of the world population, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of that's a lot of weight on a lot of women.
It is very much. And that's why we are seeing an increase in health issues and heart attacks. And, there's a reason why the heart and, you say emotions and stomach cancer, because we carry a lot of emotions in our stomachs and close to the womb. Of course, the womb is the center of being a woman, a feminine being. And we collect and we gather. And I think it correlated to a lot of health issues related to these parts of our bodies because these are the places most sacred, most associated to being. us women in the world, and you can never deny that. And as a performer, as an actor, I think the one thing that I would want to continue to do is whatever platform I get, honestly speaking, Jasmine, whatever platform I get, be it in Asia or in Malaysia or in the small industry that we have that's trying its best to become bigger and more powerful, even if I don't make it to Hollywood or anywhere else, I just want to leave a legacy of educating women that we don't have to suppress and repress and accept that we have the right to communicate and express and the right to having a good health and the optimal health. We don't need to keep surviving. We can start thriving. And that is the most important thing that I want to leave from my daughter as a girl, as who will become a woman, that she does not need to survive. She can thrive. Because I lived way too long in survival mode and have only just discovered what thriving means in my 40s. And thriving means to accept my mistakes and others' mistakes, to learn from it and to accept that's part of life, and to not be afraid of speaking up. When I say speaking up, it doesn't mean speaking loud or being forceful. It just means expressing who your truth is. And you know what? I've been healthier and stronger, and I feel more alive, and I feel the best I've ever felt, more than my 20s now that I'm starting to thrive.
Sarimah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And you know what? I just feel like I've been in an hour of therapy with you.
Oh my goodness.
Because I've suddenly much under a realization, whatever that you're talking about, I'm also reflecting. So I think that's what it is. As you've actually made me reflect a lot about this word survival. And that's actually
Yeah.
why I started podcasting, because it was
Right.
also during COVID, and I was coping with a
Yeah.
lot of issues, caring for my mother
Yeah.
at the prime of my life and not being able to go out there and do whatever that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think you have brought up some very, very interesting topics. There's a lot of talking, with friends, or I mean, I've never seen a therapist. I always thought that I
Okay.
can be strong enough. And it's always been that survival mode.
Right. Well, you are enough. But just like we would say, go to the dentist or go enjoy a good meal, why not go enjoy a good session with a therapist?
Hmm.
Or just go to manage ourselves. You deserve. People spend money at the spa, they spend money entertaining themselves, they go to the cinema. Why not just reinvest in yourself? And that's why I say you deserve to thrive and not just survive,
And
and not
and
just live with coping skills.
and while we're saying that, there's an ambulance that's driving past. Isn't that sound effects? Can you hear it?
Yes, you see.
I
And
think
I
that's
can't help, every time I see someone who's sick, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't always ask, why the disease or why the problem. I always go, what was the pain? There was always a pain. There was the deep-rooted pain behind it all
hmm.
that drove it, and that was ignored in that survival,
I remember
you
there
know?
was a book that a very good friend of mine was reading. It was called White Medicine, as in white.
Mm,
And it's
mm,
talking about how emotions are all basically pent up, and that eventually, if it's not resolved, ambulance
yeah.
again. So this is a
Oh
reminder
my
for
goodness.
all of
Yeah.
us, all our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
And this is Che Puan Sarimah Ibrahim, and
Thank you for having me.
she is currently in Kuala Lumpur, and I'm currently recording in Sydney. Thank you very much for being here, and we will come back again and see how you do your script reading.
Thank you, mate. Can't do an Aussie accent, but maybe I can. Struth.
Truth.
Goodbye. Struth.
Thanks, Sarima.
All
That was
right. Thank you
great. That
so
was
much.
great. Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me. Hello, I'm Sarimah Ibrahim. So this is from a show called Afterlife, and I like this monologue. It's the character Kath, played by Diane Morgan. It's just a very dry, tongue-in-cheek monologue, but in the sense that even though it's funny a little bit, it also has sort of a message that really resonated with me. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that has so many meanings behind it. So I'm going to just read this monologue out for you and see what you think and what you take from it. Okay, so I've got something for you. Crystals. They've got healing powers. Yes. How can you not believe in God? I mean, you're so narrow-minded. Look around you. It's so beautiful. Everything came from something. Everything came from nothing. I'm sorry, that's not even possible. The Big Bang. Really now? So who created the Big in the Bang then? I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. It's impossible. How can you not believe in God? That's the monologue.
That's so cool.
It's
As the
it's quite,
accent.
you know what I mean?
Actually, you know what? You know what would be really funny if we were to do that, but in a Malay accent. No,
Then
no,
let's do
no.
another verse.
Okay, what?
You ready?
Mm.
I've got something for you. Crystals. They got healing power. Yeah. Hey, how can you not believe in God, lah? You're so narrow-minded, okay? Look around you, lah. It's so beautiful. The Big Bang. Oh my God. Everything came from nothing. It's not possible. I mean, how can you? Then who created the Big in the Bang? Tell me. No, sorry, yeah. I cannot. I cannot accept it. It's not possible. Crazy, like, seriously, yeah.
Sorry, my brother's got the oven going. I forgot to turn it off just now. But that's a really cute sort of monologue.
It is.
Do
I've
you
got
write?
one more.
Do you write as well? Do you write stuff?
Um, I add on. I can do monologues.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't written anything in completion.
Mm. You know, I was
I
thinking,
want to do one more of it.
oh yeah. Okay.
But it's very different take on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
Well, I've got something for you. Crystals. They have healing powers. How can you not believe in God? You're so narrow-minded. I mean, look around you. It's so beautiful. The Big Bang. Everything came from nothing. It's not possible. It's just not possible. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. I mean, who created the Big in the Bang even?
can't. It's not possible.
Which
There's
one did
so
you
many-
like best? Actually, I like your first one best.
Me too.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
There you go.
Thank you, Sarimah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Now
time. Now we can talk.
we are done.
Yeah, we're done.